Hello and welcome back to the Odds Now YouTube channel for your Tuesday briefing ahead of all the action at Alexandra Palace for the PDC World Championship. It's the third video I've done in tournament. I'm glad to say on Monday we had a bit better luck than we did on opening night. As I'm speaking right now, Cameron Menzies is in the middle of his game with Leonard Gates. I've backed him to have a 180 in every set as views of yesterday's video. We'll know so far so good at 1-1. So hopefully Cammy can close that one out and get us another winner on the board. But we had a good couple of winners this afternoon. Luke Woodhouse, 3-0 win over at Lawrence Alagan, was a 94 correct score winner. And we also had the Kai Godhart a bet that I put up on our main tournament preview at 4-1. It went off 5-2 for Godhart to hit the most 180s against Alan Suter. And not only did he do that, he actually won 3-1 and kept his composure after his dart snapped midway through the first set as well. So very impressive from the big German. And that gives us a little bit of momentum to carry into Tuesday's action, an afternoon and evening session once again. Wednesday, worth noting, we only have an evening session. So, don't make Wednesday. If you're going to make plans with your other half, maybe do them on Wednesday afternoon would be my suggestion. Because we have a gap there. But Tuesday, we have afternoon and evening session. So 8 matches to look ahead to, starting with James Hurrell versus Jim Long on Tuesday afternoon. And I'm actually going to go for the upset here. Jim Long, the Canadian, is all the way out at 8-5, which I think is a very fair price, all things considered. Hurrell has had a very impressive first year on the Pro Tour, to be fair. He's made 3 quarterfinal appearances on the Pro Tour on the floor, but he's still looking for that breakthrough on TV. He lost on his only Euro Tour appearance to Luke Woodhouse. He lost his opening game at the UK Open to a qualifier. And he also lost to Danny Noppert in Minehead. Now, he was 5-3 up in that game and played really well, but conspired to lose 6-5 and missed a match start. So he's still searching for that first TV win as a PDC tour card holder. And I just don't think that Ali Pali is a place you want him to be looking to do that, really. And Jim Long, very experienced, steady, solid competitor, Canadian. We won't have seen much of him, week to week on the tour. He's not a tour card holder or anything, but he is a name people will be familiar with. He's a bit of a veteran of the sport. He has been at Ali Pali years ago, where he won his first round game against Mickey Mantle, so clearly no mug. And some viewers may have seen him playing on the senior circuit, where he got all the way to the Senior World Championship semi-final earlier this year, lost to John Henderson in the end, but beat the likes of Martin Adams, David Cameron, Paul Hogan, always averaging around 90. And that tournament is set play as well. So I think that's really solid form, comfortable in the format, experience. Don't expect him to overawe him. And I think with Hurrell not having that first TV win, you're brave taking odds on quote about him. So I'm going to chance Long at 8-5 in that first game there. Next up, we have Kevin Doets taking on Noa-Lynn van Leuven. And I think that there's a little bit of value in Doets to win this 3-0. Now, Noa-Lynn van Leuven, obviously more known for stories off the hockey than on it, unfortunately. But I do think that she did herself a decent showing at the Grand Slam in the end. Nerves, obviously, in the first game. And although she went away winless, she did have an extremely tough group. She was in with Michael van Gerwen, Ryan Joyce, and Gary Anderson. So I wouldn't have been expecting much from that group, I don't think. But Doets, on the other hand, he was fantastic at last year's World Championship, wasn't he? He whitewashed Stowe Bunce in the opening match of the tournament and then very nearly dumped out reigning champion Michael Smith, going down 3-2. But he averaged a ton in that game and just showed a real liking for that World Championship stage. And Doets continues to impress on the stage. He had a good run at the UK Open, which is somewhere where he's excelled before, did so again this year. And he had a good little run in Minehead as well. So I do really like Kevin Doets as a player. This is not so much going against Noa-Lynn van Leuven, but I do think the crowd will inevitably get involved in this game, perhaps negatively towards her. And I think that Doets, he'll just enjoy and relish this occasion. And I think he can do a professional job and close this one out 3-0. On to the third game then, which is Ryan Joyce up against Darius Labanauskas. We haven't seen much of Darius for a long time. He lost his tour card at the end of 2023. And I'm glad to say that he has qualified and he's a very popular figure, one of only very few men to hit a 9-darter on that Ali Pali stage. But fair to say, Darius probably not quite where he was back in 2020 when he got all the way to the quarterfinals during the COVID World Championships. But here he is. He's here. He takes on Ryan Joyce, who I think is continuously one of the most underrated and overlooked players on the PDC circuit. He's had another fantastic year, hasn't he? Making the semi-final of the World Grand Prix and impressing in several other tournaments as well. I really like Ryan Joyce. I think he's so understated the way he goes about his business, but he's beaten so many good scalps. He had a good run at the PDC finals as well, and across the Grand Prix and the Players Championship finals, he's beaten the likes of Aspinall, Rock, Cross, Menzies, Schindler. So the big names don't faze him at all, and I really do think he's a player to keep on side wherever you can. As I say, I'm not convinced Labanauskas is the player he was a couple of years ago. Maybe age and time catching up with him and not playing on the tour, maybe just making him a little bit rusty. So I want to be with the 3-0 Joyce here, which is a massive 13-5. I think there's a real chance that Labanauskas just falls a little bit flat on his return to Alexandra Palace. And if he does so, Joyce is more than capable of clearing up and taking advantage. I think this is worth a point at 13-5. Final game of the afternoon is an absolute cracker potentially between Mike De Decker and Luke Woodhouse. De Decker comes in remarkably as the 6th favourite to win this tournament, although he is in the same quarter as Luke Humphries. It's a bit of a quarter of death at the bottom of that section, I think it's fair to say, with the likes of Heta, Bunting, Scutt, all lurking. So De Decker's going to have to do it the hard way if he's going to do it. But wow, what a year he's had, obviously winning the World Grand Prix and just becoming, I think, a bit of a growth from a boy to a man, certainly in TV tournaments, and finding that newfound self-belief. I really do think that Mike De Decker is banging contention to play in the Premier League. And I think anything but a disastrous sort of first round exit here, second round exit, should be enough to see him in that lineup, I think, because he ticks another country, doesn't he, with the Belgian influence. And I think he's an up-and-coming player, exciting player to watch. But Luke Woodhouse, he could give him a real scare here, I think. He was really impressive in taking care of Lawrence Ilagan 3-0, but obviously a correct score that we backed yesterday. And I really do think that he can push De Decker close here if he repeats that level of performance. Now, both of these players like a 180 and they both like to get on with it. So I think the quick rhythm is going to suit both. I can see it going over 3.5 sets because I think Woodhouse is more than good enough to get a set. And as I say, maybe push him close. So I'm going to back them both to have over 4 180s because I think the line for 180s is 10.5 in this match. It's expected to be a bit of a maximum fest. And I do think that both of these can rise to the occasion. So both to have over 4.5 180s using the Bet365 Bet Builder tool comes in at 17-10. I think that's definitely worth a point. I think this, if it does go how I see it going, they could bring the best out of each other, these two, and it could be a really cracking match, which I would edge towards De Decker prevailing from, but I think he'll be given a stern examination. On to the evening session then, and the first game of the evening session is Jeffrey de Graaf. He takes on the Caribbean qualifier Rashad Sweeting, and I'm in no rush to have a bet on this game. De Graaf is 1-40 to win it, and Sweeting 4-9 to win it 3-0. Now, if you're in the business of playing sort of 4-9 shots, which I'm not, generally speaking, unless I can roll them into a double of some sort, you'd be hard to discourage anyone from this because Sweeting averages in the mid-70s. He's come through a Caribbean qualifier with absolutely no level of serious competition. And I can't really see him. I think Norman Madu, who was in the same qualifier as him, he didn't win a leg last year against Simon Whitlock. So that kind of gives you a guide of what we might be dealing with Sweeting here. But he'll be just aiming to, not discredit himself and maybe nick a couple of legs, maybe nick a set. I think that's ambitious, to be honest. I see De Graaf winning this 3-0, but there's no value there. So this will be a no-bet game for me. Next up, we have Ricardo Pietreczko, and he takes on the Chinese qualifier Zhongzhao Chen. Pietreczko's had an up and down year, I think it's fair to say. On the one hand, he didn't even make a Pro Tour quarter-final from 30 efforts. But then on the other, he thrived on the stage because he made a Euro Tour semi-final, a Euro Tour final, and he got to the quarterfinals of the European Championship. So I think it's fair to conclude that a continental crowd seems to bring the best out of him. And as we saw last year, he had issues at the Grand Slam with the English crowd that carried into the World Championship where he got a lot of stick and eventually ended up blowing it against Luke Humphries from a very commanding position. We all know what Luke Humphries went on to do last year. So yeah, that was a little bit of a one that he may look back on and regret. But Pietreczko says he's a better player for that experience. He's really looking forward to getting back on the stage. And most importantly, he says that a wrist injury, which has kind of plagued him for the last 2 or 3 months of the season, is now completely gone. He hasn't had it operated on. They couldn't actually work out exactly what was going wrong there, I don't think, the doctors. So that seems to be behind him. We can expect a full fit Pietreczko, and he's taking on the Chinese qualifier who, when I compare the numbers, he's very similar to Ryuzi Azumoto, who pushed Wesley Plaisa 5 sets earlier today. But I think it's fair to say that was more down to Plaisa's underperformance than Azumoto's overperformance. He just hit that kind of 80-something average, very steady level. But if Pietreczko brings his best, then I don't think Zong's going to be able to live with him. The one way I did find of adding a little bit of value to Pietreczko's price is to add the most 180s line, because he quite likes a 180, Pietreczko, even by professional tour standards. I think he's one of the more reliable maximum hitters, particularly on the stage. And Zong doesn't really hit many maximums. I don't think Azumoto, I think he may have hit one. I think he hit none, actually. And Zong's stats are very similar in that respect. So, Pietreczko to win with the most 180s is the bet for me there. That is even money with Boylesports, and that's a 2-point win, my only 2-pointer of the day. Next up on the evening is Fallon Sherrock taking on Ryan Meikle. This is the big game for Sky Sports, isn't it? And they'll be praying that Fallon can get through to set up that dream tie with Luke Little, a dream from their perspective anyway. I actually think Fallon is a bet here. And some people will raise their eyebrows at that, I'm sure. But 10-3, it's all price related. And I think that 10-3 is plenty big enough when you factor in the opponent, the situation, etc. Ryan Meikle had another pretty mediocre year on the Pro Tour by all accounts. He did register an impressive win over Gary Anderson last month at Minehead, but that was very much the anomaly in his season. He barely, he didn't get through the next round, so that's kind of epitomises Meikle. It's good performances rather than good tournaments, I think, and he just struggles to implement that consistency, and he does have bad days. He undoubtedly has talent, but he has bad days, and when you pair that with his kind of unconventional slow throwing style, it makes him difficult to watch, and I don't think that the crowd ever really get behind him in a positive way because he's slow, it just makes things a little bit difficult for him when it's not going well. Now, add in the Sherrock factor, which really can be a game changer, and you could see that there's the element here for an upset here. Now, Sherrock hasn't won at the World Championships in 3 years after impressing in her first 2 appearances, but I don't think that's been necessarily through a massive dip in performance. She's had some really solid performances against her. The likes of Steve Beaton, Ricky Evans, Jermaine Wattermean are all really solid pros. They've all turned up, played really well, and she's been competitive in those games, but she hasn't quite got over the line, 3-1s and 3-2s. But I don't think she's disgraced herself at all. I do think she raises her game for Ali Pali, and I worry a little bit about Meikle if we get that version of Sherrock again. Now, obviously, there are a lot of ifs and buts in play, but I think at 10-3, you pay to take the chance. So I will be backing Fallon Sherrock here for the upset, and maybe Sky will get their dream game. Final match of the night is Peter Wright taking on Wesley Plaisa, and I'll just go straight out and say it. This is a no bet for me, but I'm very interested to watch it and see how it unfolds, because I thought Plaisa showed a hell of a lot of nerves in his first round victory over Azumoto today. He was pretty dreadful for the first 3 sets or so, but once he started to warm up, it was more like the Wesley Plaisa that we've seen ripping it up on the Pro Tour this year. And I think if he can channel that sort of level of performance, and he has banished those nerves, then he'll give Peter Wright a really good game. Now, Plaisa has been backed into around about 11-10 even money to beat Peter Wright, so it's a bit of a pick 'em, which you might think is a bit disrespectful to Peter Wright given all he's achieved on stage, but it's just been so erratic this season, and there's been probably more bad than good. But I find myself, I just can't work this game out, to be honest. Plaisa, there's a lot of unknowns. We saw a lot of nerves from him today. Is he going to be able to find that level of performance? He said it's the most nervous he's ever been, so that would worry me from the perspective of, is he able to replicate what he needs to beat Wright? And then will Wright raise his game on the big stage? There's every possibility he will. I mean, he's an absolutely class act, former 2-time world champion. So I don't want to write Peter Wright off. Pardon the pun. So I'm just going to give this a watching brief, but I will be a very, very intrigued viewer, I must admit, because I think this is a game that truly could go either way. Okay, then, so just to summarise my best bets then for Tuesday, the afternoon session, I've got a bet in each game. Jim Long to beat James Hurrell 8-5 with Ladbrokes. Kevin Doets 3-0 against Noa-Lynn van Leuven 8-5 also with Ladbrokes. Ryan Joyce 3-0 against Darius Labanauskas is a slightly bigger price, but I do fancy that one at 13-5. And then Mike Decker and Luke Woodhouse both to get over 4.5 180s is 17-10. And then in the evening, couple of no-bet matches for me, but I am going to have a bet on Ricardo Pietreczko to win with the most 180s. That's a 2-point win bet at even money with Boylesports, and a speculative point on Fallon Sherrock to beat Ryan Meikle at 10-3. Let me know what you're backing on Tuesday at Ali Pally. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider giving us a thumb up and subscribing to Odds Now. We really appreciate all the subscribes, and it helps us create more content like this, previewing the biggest sporting events. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.